Alright, I'm assuming that now that the weekend is over, everyone has had the time to sit down and binge watch Daredevil Season 2. And if you haven't, that's okay, because I'm not going into spoilers on this one. Alright, so coming in, I really liked Daredevil Season 1. I thought it was very fully rounded and it developed its characters well. It had some strong points and it had some weak points, as everything does. But suffice to say, I was super looking forward to this because not only were we getting Daredevil back, but from the promo posters and the trailers that we had seen for it, we knew that Punisher and Elektra were going to be part of it in some kind of way. Now, what I was thinking that was going to happen in this season was that they were going to immediately go into the loose threads that we were introduced to in Season 1. I thought that they were going to go into that right away, but they didn't, and I'm telling you why that this is a good thing. It shows that the writers and the directors of these episodes, they weren't rushing it. Much like Season 1, they took it slow, they took their time, they knew the kind of pace that they were going for, which, like last time, it was very similar in the fact that each episode builds off the last, and each episode, especially toward the latter half of the season, has a great cliffhanger that keeps asking you to have more, which is great on a Netflix series because you can just binge watch it over and over each episode through and through. Now, if Season 1 was more of a mob/mafia story, this one takes a little bit of a different approach. It actually questions the morals of all of our characters, especially Daredevil's morals, and we see where he stands with his code of honor, as it were. And also, there was enough seeds in the last season toward the end where they alluded to different organizations and other things at play, which we didn't see fully of, but we do get more, and we get this world that is a little bit more fleshed out. Now, the acting impressed me across the board. Of course, Charlie Cox, Deborah Ann Woll as Karen, and even Eldon Henson as Foggy impressed me from this season compared to last, because in the beginning of Season 1, Foggy, he had to grow on me. His acting was kind of and his character was, it took a long time for me to actually like his character, instead of seeing him as a nuisance and seeing him as a side character. Now, this whole season banks on the Punisher working. The Punisher is played by Jon Bernthal, and if his character did not work, then this whole season would collapse, because it really evolves around Punisher and it also doesn't. Not only that, but this is not a spoiler, but Elektra is also in this season, and I really thought that the actors that played these two new characters in this universe were really well. They acted very nicely, and their characters and acting did not bog down the show. It was even up to par with the main cast. Now, I want to talk about the Punisher aspect of this season. I thought that he was going to have an interesting character arc to his story, and he really didn't. His character, and I hope this is not a spoiler, it doesn't really go anywhere. His character is more of a vehicle for the other characters to have them go through their story arc, if that makes any sense. The effects that the Punisher does and the havoc that he wreaks on this city has an effect on Matt Murdock and Foggy and Karen and all of these characters in a way where they have to grow and know what they want. Now, if there's anything that I take away from this season or compare it more to from Season 1, is not the story, not the characters, but actually the increase in violence. Season 2 is a lot more violent than Season 1 ever was. There was a few moments here and there, or there would be probably 2 or 3 episodes where if you were a little weak-stomached, you wouldn't be able to look at some of these moments, you know, just because of the intensity. This season has a lot more moments like that. Sometimes it was necessary and other times it wasn't. Now, that the fact that the Punisher is in this series and in this universe and in this season, the nature of his character calls for this kind of style, and him being in the show automatically ups the violence just that much. Now, I'm all for violence if it's for the sake of storytelling and if it's necessary, but some scenes were not necessary to be so violent, or at least to be so explicit with the showing of this violence. Now, Frank Castle, the Punisher, that's fine. storyline. I know that he has to be violent, and it's even in his name kind of implies what he does. But it's these other scenes that clearly Marvel is trying to aim at a different audience, the more adult audience. If kids were able to see Daredevil season 1, they probably won't be able to see season 2, honestly. There's too many scenes in almost every episode where you kind of have to look away if you don't have the stomach for it. But overall, I thought the season was very good. It was actually a breeze to binge watch this season rather than the first season. I found it went by extremely quick, and it was a little bit more entertaining to watch. It has a little bit more replay value. I can see myself coming back to this season and watching it maybe 1 or 2 more times. And although this season does wrap everything in a kind of like a nice bow, there is still enough to go off of where we can continue with the season 3 and other seasons. They didn't answer everything that season 1 had to offer and the new questions that season 2 came up with. So of course, if you're a superhero buff like I am, you'll find yourself watching this series probably all in 2 days or what have you. And I would recommend it even to those who don't watch these kinds of things. It's a very good drama show, and it's grounded in a reality. First season was a little bit more grounded since we focused on a mafia mob kind of storyline. This one kind of delves a little bit more into the fantasy, but it's still fine because you still feel like these characters are people and they act like people and not cartoons, which is nice. They're treating their audience as intelligent. Couple things that I would fix though. Some injuries seems like they did not have any repercussions to them. Whenever side characters or bad guys would get hurt, they would kind of be down and out for a while, and our main characters would get hurt pretty severely if you ask me, and it seems like the repercussions of that would go away within that episode, where if you saw some of the things that happened, you would tell yourself that guy cannot heal that quickly. And I don't know if this is going back to the point of showing violence just to show it, because I mean, yeah, it was violent, but no one could walk away from something like that, if that makes any sense. Also, the first couple episodes were a little dark. I think the cinematography and the lighting could have been a little bit better, but about every other episode is handed off by a different director, a different writer. So although it's one show, it is kind of handed off to another person's hands. So that just might be it. I just found myself wondering what was going on in some of the fight scenes. But all things considered, season 2 was amazing, and I give Daredevil season 2 a 5 out of 5.